Sam, first of all, what was the draw of 50 Shades for you as a filmmaker?
I think because I'd taken such an extended period of time out and I just wanted to spend time with my family and have kids, and then I just got, this urge to get back to work. And when I read this for going into a meeting, I thought, wow, cinematically I haven't seen anything like this for a long time, if at all. And I thought that would be an interesting challenge, and and how to sort of bring such a beloved book to the screen.
And in the 90s, there were quite a few romantic thrillers, weren't there? But you're right, we haven't really seen anything like this for a very long time on screen.
No, I mean, because you can, the obvious ones to go 9.5 weeks, especially, and Last Tango in Paris. But I think, they feel dated classics, and now it's time for a new one. I mean, they're brilliant, but it felt like, okay, it's time for that realm to be looked at.
And the novel, of course, has sold 100 million copies in 52 different countries. How much pressure did you feel in bringing this material to the screen, knowing there were fans, or also was that quite liberating in some ways, knowing that there would be an audience at the end of it?
I was constantly reminded of the pressure throughout the process, which I don't think is a healthy place to be. I really wanted to just focus, but there was always an awareness of the fan base, and you must think this way, and you must think. And that was a good and a bad thing. A good thing because I wanted that awareness, because I didn't want to feel like I'd, not honoured this book, and I wanted to make the best possible version of it. But at the same time, it can be a bit debilitating when, someone says, 100 million people and this many, and it's like, yeah, it can be really overwhelming.
And casting, as always, is vital. Why was Dakota Johnson the perfect choice for Anastasia Steele in your eyes?
She came in very early on in the process, and I made it quite difficult for all the actresses that came in by giving them a 4-page monologue from an Ingmar Bergman movie, Persona, and it was a really good way of quickly sorting the wheat from the chaff, if you like, and just getting to that point where you can then go to the next step with somebody. But she came in and she read it so flawlessly, and she was one of the few that understood that the arc of this 4-page monologue was very akin to the arc of Anastasia's journey. And she read it that way, and I just thought, yeah, she's talented.
And how about Jamie Dornan? What does he bring to the screen as Christian Grey?
Well, he was incredibly difficult to cast, and I know a lot of it's been documented, but the main characteristics that, as written on page, were, absolute perfection, physically perfect and charismatic, successful, wealth, could hold his own, all of these things. Now, physical perfection was the easy part. Somebody that could act with that physical perfection was incredibly difficult. And what Jamie had that a lot of others didn't have was a real depth of soul. And his soulfulness is really what carries us through the movie.
And what about when you put them together? What did they deliver as a pairing on screen?
They've both arrived in the room laughing because they'd sort of met on the way in and introduced themselves, and they're both extremely funny people, but they're also both competitively funny people, so they like to think they're funnier than each other, and that was really the chemistry. When you see two people laughing and being silly, I just thought, okay, this is going to be good, because everything else I can create, and this is the thing that is just natural.
And there's some humour in the film, of course, isn't there?
Yeah, a lot more than we originally had written, because just on set, things started to come alive, and the character of Dakota came right through Anastasia, and there's a lot of free-forming going on, and that created so much fun.
And the interview scene at the beginning of the film and the coffee shop date scene, both sort of highly charged scenes, aren't they? I just wondered...
they were the toughest scenes to shoot of the whole movie. I mean, everyone thinks, it must be the Red Room that was tough. That wasn't. That was about choreography, and, we'd sort of planned how we were going to do that. But with the interview scene, if I didn't get the nuance of that relationship right in the first however many minutes it is, then it wasn't going to work.
And did you find, in terms of it being erotically charged, sometimes the more erotically charged scenes were actually those kind of scenes where it's more build-up rather than the actual sex or the Red Room.
Yeah, and I think the interview scene we took 2 days to shoot, and we rewrote it a few times, and it was it was a tough one to crack, because especially when Christian Grey's character is supposed to be so shut down, to then try and get any nuance of interest or a flicker, that was that was quite tough to sort of convey shut down but interested.
And how important is music to you as a filmmaking tool? I mean, there's a brilliant soundtrack. Can you talk a bit about the selection of songs?
I'm so proud of this. I mean, I'm so proud of equally, but I'm so proud of the music because it's as important as vision for me, and the choices that I made throughout, they were something that I had to feel very passionate about each single one, because I listened to music all the time, and I knew I wanted a really powerful woman's voice at the beginning and a very vulnerable sounding voice at the end, and I'm a huge fan of The Weeknd, and so we asked a lot of people to write a song for that end, and when The Weeknd turned in that track, I just knew it was going to be a monster hit. I just knew it was perfect for the movie, and mainly because I almost imagined that the darkness and that music playing at the end was a scene, and it wasn't just the end of the movie. It was a scene where you're still feeling things. So to have his voice singing out in the dark was so vulnerable. Yeah, it's one of my favourite achievements of the movie.
And Danny Elfman's score as well. What were your kind of guiding principles for him?
Well, Danny, I mean, talk about being blessed to get Danny Elfman to compose a score for you. I couldn't believe it when I met him and he agreed to do this with me. And we worked very closely together, and on the first few days, this is a man that's composed nearly 100 scores for movies, and he said, so, what do you think? Should I check? And I don't even know where to begin to, I don't feel qualified to be able to judge your music in a way that I can actually speak about it. So I gave him a lot more free rein until, near the end, where we then sort of tightened everything. But it was an amazing experience, and he has this incredible studio with, like glockenspiels and xylophones from like the beginning of time, and ones that are made out of zinc, ones that are made out of glass. So he's quite an aesthetic person. So he also has strange things. His studio is pretty wild.
And some filmmakers, like Hitchcock, famously for one, appear in their movies at some points. How tempted were you to put some of your own artwork in Christian's apartment, or how did you?
No, mainly because I just thought I want to. I want the fantasy of having a Christian Grey amount of money to collect that sort of art, and so I thought, if this was my collection, what would I have? I'd have I'd have a Gary Hume, I'd have an Ed Ruscha, I'd have a John Baldessari, and so I put the collection that I would like together, which was so much fun.
And the film's out in time for Valentine's Day. To what extent would you describe it as a love story? I guess it's an unconventional one.
I'd say it's definitely a love story, and it has that arc and journey, but I'd say it's a pretty complex one and an unconventional one. But absolutely, love is at the heart of it.
And do you see it as a Valentine's date movie for this weekend? Obviously, people will carry on seeing it much longer, but...
Why not?
Sam Dakota Johnson, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!